to you. Actions always find a way to shine brighter than the things you say. Can't get around it if you try. If you love them, then you magnify. No matter what you try to do, you can't.
Y'all have heard of Guggen Squad, some of y'all, but have you heard of FishingATX?
Sure, a few people have. I'm pretty popular in Austin, I feel like,
That's
get notarized a good amount while I'm out.
I know you told me that, and I think that's so cool to where like you're just walking, you're like, oh my gosh, you're this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you as Charlie, right?
Yeah.
And so who's Charlie? What is FishingATX?
So yeah, my name is Charlie Murphy. I'm a freshman here at Southwestern. FishingATX is really, it's a hobby. That's what it started out as, and it's still, I would say that today, but it's something that I would love to make a full-time job at some point. Like ever since I was a little kid, fishing is what I've been absolutely obsessed with. Like I am completely crazy about it. Love it more than anything in life. But for me, something I loved as a kid was watching, like you said, the Guggen Squad, like guys like that,
Yeah.
and like famous YouTubers and what they did. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So literally, when I was like third, fourth grade, the house we used to live in, there was a little creek behind it, and I would go back there with like a little tiny rod and stuff, like a net, catching like little tiny minnows and all that. But I would like pretend like I was filming the whole time. Like,
No, you didn't.
yeah, I had my own little YouTube channel, like my own little world, and that was just like
All in your head.
exactly. It was like so fascinating to me until sixth grade. A kid I met in sixth grade, he was a good friend of mine at the time. We decided, it's like, all right, let's actually try and do this for real, because he liked fishing as well. So we're like, all right, let's try and do something. We couldn't think of a name. We thought for a while, and we're like, what did we both like, I guess, or what are we? Like, we're both young. We like fishing. So I came up with the name Junior Fishing Squad. Like, so, cringy.
Okay,
Just
like a
little,
JV team.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like fishing channel. And basically, I think we had like 5 videos, and 4 of the 5 were just us like catching tiny little sunfish and bluegill with like hardcore like rock music behind it. Like it was terrible. I got bullied so much in school.
That's such an interesting mix. It's like usually it's country or something soft, and now it's, you just did hardcore rock.
Oh yeah, no, it's like 4-inch fish with like hardcore like rap like rock, just crazy music.
Is there
behind
still
it.
videos out there or no?
I wish. That's the thing. So basically, like we got bullied a ton for it. Like I mean, I say bullied. People were just like kind of having fun with us,
Yeah.
but like I never took it like hard. I thought people were just like messing with us. I didn't care. He cared a lot. Like it actually like really like hurt him, and it kind of like it weighed on our friendship low key. Like we really weren't friends anymore after like 7th grade. So I ended up just taking it down, just kind of in respect for him.
That's fair.
Yeah, but after that was when I was like, okay, I do want to do this YouTube thing like for real, but I need to get better at fishing before I do it. So the next like year or so, I spent pretty much just every single weekend going out to little ponds and stuff, just working on like getting better at bass fishing. And before long, I mean, I was really good for 13 years old. Like I didn't know anyone better than me at that time. So I was like, okay, I think it's time to start doing this again. But I sat down, I was like, all right, I don't want some like cringy name. I want to actually like think of something that's represents me and like where I live and all that. And I thought for like probably 2-3 weeks, and I finally came up with FishingATX.
Interesting. Okay. So would you argue fishing's a sport?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
like it depends though too. If you're going out there with just like a bobber and a worm, then no. I mean, that's just like leisure fishing. There's no skill involved in that. It's just throw it
Yeah.
out, wait for a bite. I mean, I guess like finding your spot's the only skill. But for what I do bass fishing. I mean, that's my main thing. I obviously love doing saltwater fishing, all kinds of fishing, but largemouth bass fishing, that is majority what I do. It is hardcore. I only use artificials,
Tell real quick, because I made a rookie mistake. I gotta make sure we're recording on the camera. So
no.
Look at the camera. Hopefully it's recording, and argue why it's a sport. Why I go fix my mistake.
I got you, yeah. So for me, I believe it's a sport because not only do you have to go. This is recording.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. All right, we're all good.
We started this. I was so nervous for a second. I was like, wait.
Oh wait, did I not hit record? Oh, I've done it before. I've done entire
It's okay.
like starting my videos. I've done entire intros where I'll talk for like 2-3 minutes about what's going to go on the day, and outros too. It's the worst, especially when you've been fishing all day and you get back. I film this entire outro. I think of all the stuff in my head, and then I'm done. I'm like, all right, let's go home. I never press record, and I get so mad. Yeah, so I've done it. It's terrible. But for me, fishing's a sport just because of the fact of you're going out. You're using artificials, you're having to find your spots, locate all the things like that, and you're using a lure, something that's fake, not even real,
Yeah.
to attract and convince a living animal into eating it. And it's like, the thing is, me and my friend can go out and fish for an entire day using the exact same lure in the exact same spot, and I might catch 50 fish, he might catch 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to fishing lures, it's all about how you present it and how you retrieve it. Like, the way I present it could be very different from how he does it, and because of that, I can get tons of bites and catch tons of fish, whereas he won't catch anything, which, side note, that happens a lot. So it is important. That's how over time you get a lot better at it. But
Fair. So whenever you catch a fish, do you like kiss it before you throw it back? Are you one of those guys or no?
I mean, not normally, but I have done it before.
You don't give it a little tongue or anything? No?
No tongue usually, yeah. I mean, I have kissed a fish before, though, obviously. There's been some, like, good luck ones. They're just,
Yeah.
like, just giants, and I'm like, so grateful for, I guess. So, yeah, I'll give them a little kiss on the head.
Yeah. Well, I was watching a few of your videos, and you get really excited. Like, you'll catch one of your big ones, and you sound like you even told me, you sound like a kid all the way in your backyard with, like, the rap music again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, okay, so I think we left off on something that I wanted to dive deeper in, like your start of your channel, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you're a big fishing dude. You've talked about the presentation of these lures.
Yeah.
And, like, I agree. I would say that, there's a lot of money into it, so it makes sense why it's a sport, and there's sponsorships and professional leagues. But how did you get to the point to where you're not the biggest channel, but you're still a great channel for, like, the Austin area, and you've been recognized in public. So how'd you get to that point?
Yeah, so I started, like I said, kind of like second half of like 7th grade, beginning of 8th grade, and it was still pretty terrible, like cringy content like that. I was a little kid fishing. But as I've grown and matured, I've learned a lot more about it. You can pretty much, like, what's cool about it is you can see, like, my whole progression, like, growing up and, like, how much I've learned about bass fishing in that time. And within, like, I would say 3 to 4 years, especially once I actually got my own bass boat, the tracker that I fish off of currently, I started figuring out a lot more and got to the point to where it was like I learned certain lakes like Lake Austin, Lady Bird, Lake Travis, all those lakes. I learned them so well to where I started doing guiding and I started doing reports and stuff like that, and that really kind of blew me up. Like, more people knew about me just through, like, the guiding services I was doing and the reports I was giving. And then just certain YouTube videos as well, like ones that I'll, like, click. It's like Austin, Texas fishing, or Lake Travis fishing compilation, or like catching big bass in downtown Austin. Those videos got me a ton of clicks, and people were like, okay, this is a guy who does a lot of fishing within the Austin area.
Yeah.
He's got tons of, like, reviews for these places and, like, how-tos and stuff like that. And that's how all the people learned me.
So your knowledge over the area is what helped you kind of, like,
Exactly.
spark your growth. That makes sense.
I mean, I would like to believe that, at least as far as, like, 19-year-olds go, I've got a pretty good understanding of Central Texas fishing.
You said you've been doing it since 7th grade. So even if you're 19, like, don't look at the age, look at the experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, even since 6 years old, essentially, is when I started. But I would say since 7th grade is when I've really, like, taken a big step forward and, like, really understood what I was doing.
Dude, that's awesome. My family and I, like, a lot of us love to fish.
Oh, yeah.
We're from the Woodlands, and so if you know, like, the Houston area, that's a very, like, preppy area. But I would say we're kind of a black sheep, maybe a gray sheep. That's the best way to describe it. We're kind of like, half Woodlands, half, like, country. We have some property and stuff, but we love fishing. And one of my favorite stories, believe it or not, is my family and I, like, mom, dad, 2 other brothers, we went to at the time, it was like my uncle's fishing lodge. Shout out to Uncle John. Love you. But it was called the Rock and Sea Lodge. And we went out there, and we were just, I don't know, we were tearing it up with some reds because it was in Louisiana. Yeah. And still to this day, my mom has, like, a huge, like, stuffed
like
red.
A mount.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like wall mount.
Awesome. We put reindeer antlers on it for Christmas this break. I
Sick,
thought it was silly, but it looked pretty cool. And then we took them off. But, yeah, dude, fishing is such a, like, great pastime. And so did you ever find this issue between, like, you wanted to make videos and there's a lot of editing in that, you wanted to provide, like, kind of that channel to the Austin area? Did it ever take away from, like, developing memories, or if you go out with guys, you're like, hang on guys, I got to film this, can't talk?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. I mean, I love it because, like, the memories part, like you said, I do have all these memories. Like, I fish so often, like, especially, like, during the summertime and spring and all that. I mean, I'm going out, like, 4 to 5 times a week. It's like, it all kind of blurs together, I guess, and mushes together. But with these videos, it's like I can look back 4 years ago on July 20-something and see what I did that day and what I was catching and, like, how I was doing it, which is just so cool. And I have, like, a whole, like, time capsule. I guess regardless of wherever it goes, I can forever see what I was doing at this age and, like, the fish I was catching and where I was going and all that. But it definitely can, especially, like, when you're bringing buddies out and stuff, when it's, like, not as serious. Like, when I'm by myself, it's all like game face the whole time, super serious. But when you're bringing friends out, it's like
Yeah.
you want to have a good time and goof around and stuff. And because of that, sometimes the video quality can be, I guess, taken down a little bit because there's a lot of just goofy stuff that happens I have to edit out or just stuff like that, or it can be awkward, be like, hey guys, be quiet real fast. And I'm just sitting here talking to my camera while they're all just staring at me and like trying to screw with me. So
That's funny.
It can be hard. And another funny thing is too, like I said, like we'll get into it more later, the fishing conversations, like we'll be saying just the dumbest crap and then someone hook a fish. So I have to go back and post editing and like put a whole bit of like silent film over it, I guess, to where it's just like no noise, then go into the hook set because in fact I can't have someone saying something just like outrageous in the video.
No, I mean, you're protecting your boys a little bit, but you're also
for
protecting
sure.
the audience's ears because like there's kind of that rule to where it's like, what's the word? Like, I think Chris Pratt said this. He's like, son, you can't cuss unless we're fishing. Like, there's always that kind of like, you can say whatever you want when you're fishing. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's different.
You say some pretty outrageous stuff, like for sure.
Well, you can get frustrated. You're sitting out there for, on bad days, God knows how long. And then you finally hook something and you miss it.
Yeah. Oh, man. I've been there before.
Yeah, for sure. So does noise scare the fish? Like, like when you're
just
fishing?
Like the boat or just noise in general?
Well, you know how people used to be like,
okay, I know what you're saying.
And then, like, let's say you and I are fishing and we cast out, and then I'm trying to talk to you, but you're like, hey, bro, you're scaring the fish. Like, I feel like that's a myth. I feel like you're just trying to tell me to shut up. You don't want to talk to me.
Yes and no. Okay, so there is a good point of that. Like, especially for I feel like dads and sons, it can absolutely be like, just be quiet. I don't want to talk.
This whole time, man.
There's some truth behind it.
My dad never loved me. I love my dad. He's great.
No, but I will say though, yes, fish can be very skittish, especially right now with being cold outside. They can be really, really skittish, and the slightest bit of noise can disturb them. So you do need to be quiet. But I mean, especially when you're fishing in deeper water up on like a big, bass boat or something, you can still talk. I mean, don't be like screaming or anything. But I will say if you get up like real shallow and there's like a bunch of fish nearby that you're like seeing and stuff like that, then yes, it is very important to be quiet. And more so, not even just us not talking, but it's also just like being careful with your outboard, the loud outboard motor on the boat.
Oh, okay.
That's why you're always supposed to stop a good ways away from the spot, because you just get right up on a spot, that outboard will scare the fish off, as well as even your trolling motor too. I mean, the trolling motors are pretty quiet for the most part, but you get too close, you'll scare them. So you do need to be careful. And also casting too. I mean, sometimes you'll see a fish, like you want to cast right at it, but by doing so, your lure will hit the water right next to it, fish immediately darts. So you do have to be careful.
I guess now's a good time. I know, like we talked about wanting to make this entertaining, but part of that entertainment, I feel like, is the information from fishing, right? Like you've had a lot of experience. You've mentioned that your channel got to grow from that experience. And even when you and I went to get canes and we talked about it, you had known so much about how it's not the fishing cycle, but it's like the fishing cycle, like when is a good time to fish versus when is it, what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
And so I want to kind of, for the viewers and for my reminder, kind of give us that nerd out moment real quick.
Okay, absolutely.
About how, because I know you're going to love it, but give us because I didn't know this before I met you. It was like, I figured if it's hot, the fish like it. If it's cold, they don't. But I guess that's not entirely true.
Yeah, it all just.
So tell me as someone who might be an intermediate or beginner fisher, how do I know in freshwater when is a good time to fish?
Okay, yeah, so I can just take it season by season like I kind of did with you. And we're still back into winter right now, so I'll start with winter time. So
let's go.
The winter time is typically regarded as the toughest season to fish in, especially if people don't know as much about it because they think it's cold outside, the fish aren't moving much, like it's gonna be tough. And that can be the case, like absolutely, especially when you're in Texas like it is here and they're used to being warmer. When we have a real cold, like just snap in the weather, that'll really shut them down. Like the last week and a half, it's been really tough because how cold it was for that longest time. Like, I mean, man, I was struggling to get fish for a little while, but I will say now it's gotten warmer, the fishing's gotten better. But the winter time, basically what you're trying to do is, for the most part, you're going to either be throwing just small little tiny things on the bottom, just dragging it real slow, because those fish, like I said, the water is colder, so the fish are not going to be moving around as fast. So a lot of times they're not going to be willing to go chase something that's fast moving, like a reaction bait or something like that. You can think of like a crankbait or a swim bait or anything like, I mean, a top water too, obviously. Like you pretty much completely rule out top water and they're not willing to hit anything on top of the surface. But
because they're at the bottom too.
For the
they're
most
all
part,
cozy.
Yeah, because, and I'll get into the fall turnover and how how that all works, or should I start with that, or should I go into it?
Hey man,
later?
this is your thing. You're
Okay.
giving the presentation, not me.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to get off.
Present
off
the
track.
lure well, my guy. Artificial bait. Audience is ready.
Yeah. Okay. So honestly, no. Let's start with the water and then get into how you like fish form. That's probably a little
Okay.
easier. I'll get back into the winter cycle. So the water and how all that works. So in the springtime and the fall is typically when the water is going to be warm, but not too warm, and fish are going to be up shallow. In the springtime, mainly looking to bed. In the fall, looking to chase bait and eat up for the winter time. Whereas in the summer and the winter time, you're going to more often than not find fish out deeper just due to the extreme temperatures, whereas summer being the extreme hot, winter being the extreme cold. That's not to say, though, in the spring and the fall, you can't find fish out deep, and as well as in the summer and the spring, or summer and the winter, you can't find fish up shallow. Summertime, especially early in the morning, you find a ton of fish up shallow or late in the evening. But basically how it goes is we'll start off with the fall. So in the fall is when the water is going to start getting a little cooler. It starts cooling off, and to where it gets to the point to where the surface temperature water gets cooler than the water that's down deep, which then it starts a cycle of what's called the fall turnover. And the fall turnover is when that water that's up top gets cooled off more than the water's down deep, and it literally flips over. And during that process, the fishing just goes to crap.
So it is called a cycle.
Yeah.
I was right. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so during the fall turnover, the water up top gets cooled off enough to where it is it's essentially cooler than the water that's down deep. They flip over, and now that colder water, or that water that was colder in summertime, is now pushed to the top because even though it is cold, it is still warmer than the water that is now down below, and that's all just due to density.
Now,
and
is that
science.
just yeah? Is that just for like bass, or can it be considered like crappie, sunfish, reds?
It affects all fish. It's more of a freshwater, like lake style thing.
Yeah, I figured that.
I honestly don't really know how it works with saltwater. Like, I mean, maybe it could affect bay fishing, but I'm not totally positive. This is more of just like a lake and a pond style thing. So the fall turnover makes the fishing tough for a week or two stretch.
So I guess reds are maybe iffy because they're what, like brackish saltwater?
They're saltwater, but they
saltwater.
can go in brackish as well. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure because I love saltwater fishing. I don't do it as much though. I don't know. I mean, obviously.
Well, it's hard too in Austin, like we don't have we don't have an ocean. We're kind of limited.
So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it does in the bay, but also just I think the bay is more focused on like currents and how all that works and tides and it's a whole saltwater's a whole different beast. So I think we'll try to stick to like lake fishing. But
okay, so
that,
fall turnover, hot water goes down to the bottom, like whatever it is, the flip. Okay, the lake flips on itself.
I'm trying to I'm tripping over myself a little bit because I'm trying to like explain this in like the most like that makes sense terms, like where it don't sound like I'm speaking gibberish.
Top
here.
water, bottom water, flip on each other, stresses out the fish, bad fishing. And that lasts for like how long?
About a week and a half,
Week
give
and
or
a half.
take. But
And that's
it
the
also,
worst the entire year?
Yeah, probably. I mean, at least in my opinion, it's normally the toughest. I mean, there can be just certain little periods throughout the year where it's like a big weather change.
Okay.
That can be tough. But yeah, the fall turnover is always a really tough part of the year. So once it flips over, though, the fishing will normally be pretty steady for a little while afterwards, start catching them again. And then once you get into wintertime, a lot of the fish go deep because in the wintertime, that sun hitting on the surface water is going to make that surface water super cold and chilly, especially when it's like up shallow and it's not very deep there. But that deeper water, while it still is cold, it's going to be warmer than the surface water.
Really?
Yeah, and it holds a little more heat. Not much, but a little bit more. And
I
for
would
those
think it'd
fish,
be the opposite, but that makes
I
sense.
know, yeah. For those fish, though, it literally a couple temperature or a couple degrees difference can be everything because they're cold-blooded and their body is going to feel the way the water feels. So.
Okay. Dang, I would have thought the hot water would have stayed at the top, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Ish. Okay, so then that's the winter, and then we're bringing it all the way up to the spring. So
so in the
when are the
springtime-
fish ready?
Yes.
When are the boys ready,
In the springtime, the fish go up shallow and they spawn. They'll start doing that. It depends lake to lake. It can definitely differ.
What is spawning?
Spawning is when they mate.
Sex.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they have sex.
Okay.
It's a little different how humans would do it, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Basically, but so what will happen
No,
is
I get it.
the water in wherever lake you're fishing in, or wherever you are, once it gets around 55 to 60 degrees, that kind of temperature, you'll start seeing fish moving up shallow to their spring homes, and then the males will go up first, and then they fan out what's called a bed, which is where they'll mate, and then they try to attract a female. That female will come up. Yeah, exactly. That female will come up, and then they try to attract her, and then she'll come over and lay her eggs on that bed. Meanwhile, the male will fertilize them and watch over it. And those females, that's what the fishermen, that's what we're looking for right there. Because females, at least in the bass world, are much, much bigger than males. It's rare to ever see a male bass bigger than about 3 to 4 pounds, whereas females get giant.
Do those males ever compete for the females? They like butt heads or something?
Well,
what do they do?
Not directly, I guess, with each other.
They do a dance off? What do they got?
Yeah, I mean, they don't like directly compete, I guess, with like each other. They're more of competing just like to get the female, I guess, if that makes sense. But like the fish will like kind of fight and tear each other up a little bit though. Like once they are even mating too, they'll go after each other, and you'll see fish. I mean, they'll bloody tails just from fanning out the bed and stuff like that.
I've seen like African cichlids. They're like a very aggressive fish, like in an aquarium. And if you put them in the wrong fish, they'll just nibble at their fins till they have no fins left. So I probably should have known that.
Yeah, it depends on the species, but bass will definitely kind of go after each other a little bit.
Well, I was just used to hunting, and like one of the best times to hunt is during the rut, where like, you know, it's the same process.
Yeah.
Where those deer are trying to mate, and so those males, they'll just like, you know, they'll butt heads.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
And so I didn't know if fish were doing that too or not.
Not directly with each other as much, but like once they are actually spawning, yeah, the female, especially the female, because they're bigger and more dominant, they'll go after the male and start trying to, you know, chew them up and stuff like that. I've actually seen it happening before. It's pretty crazy to watch them do that. Meanwhile, I'm over here like trying to catch them and stuff. But yeah, so they'll spawn, and those females will spawn anywhere from one to like, they'll spawn with several different ones. I mean, it's not uncommon to see them spawn with like 3 to 5 different males. And then that's the time, though, like for someone like me, is where I'm trying to be out there every single day trying to find those big females on those beds. And I will say, too, a lot of people do not like bed fishing because it's like kind of interrupting their natural process, which I do respect that. And I think as I get older, I'm probably not going to bed fish as much. And whenever I do bed fish, I always try to be respectful. I do catch a fish like that, just take it out real quickly, take a photo, get it back on its bed. And I'll even sit there and like watch to make sure it goes back.
So there's some fishing culture dilemma.
Yeah, especially older guys, they really don't like it, which I totally like understand that.
You young snappers. I can imagine them like saying that.
Yeah, and bed fishing is definitely the in my opinion, the easiest time of the year to find a big fish like that, because you'll find it and it'll be what we call locked on a bed. So that fish is not going to move. Like you can literally do anything to it. You can like be really loud. You can get your motor right up on it. For the most part, it's not going to move off that bed. It might swim off for a minute or two. It'll be right back there just to protect its eggs. And sometimes it'll be hard to eat. I mean, you'll find some fish that they'll eat first cast. Other fish, you got to work them for hours. But I have some strategies that tend to catch them 9 out of 10 times. I'll just say that.
Can you give one?
Okay, I don't want to give away all my secrets, but I can give away some. Basically, what I'll try to do is I'll start with like a smaller bottom style lure, like a smaller jig or like a wacky rig, something like that.
Yeah.
And then normally the fish won't take that at first. Occasionally they will, but if they don't, what I do is I pull out a massive 10-inch glide bait, which basically represents just like a really big bait fish. It's just a really big, flashy presentation that, in my case, what I'm trying to do with it is not even necessarily catch them. I mean, I will catch them on it sometimes, but its sole purpose is just to piss them off. Like, I'm trying to get them pissed. Yeah.
So you're trying to make them mad.
So I'm trying to make them mad, and by doing that, normally when I throw that thing in its face enough times, you'll get the fish angry, and I know I've got it. Like, pretty much I know I'm going to catch this fish to the point to where it's chasing that glide bait off its bed, and it's like biting at its tail. That's when I know, it's like, all right, I'm going to catch this fish. So I'll go grab another jig, like a bigger, heavier duty jig, which has a really big, strong hook. I'll flip that on the bed. The fish will eat it right away, set the hook, and I like throwing a lure like that because I know I'll have it pinned a little better. So
you're just pissing them off with one bait, and then once you see him kind of nipping at it, you're like, okay, here's the jig.
Exactly, yeah.
That might be that, and maybe a popper might be my favorite.
Yeah, popper doesn't work as well just for like bed fishing. It's a top water, you know.
Yeah.
They're not going to come out of the water to eat it.
Yeah,
but
it's just fun to pop it, though.
Oh,
you
no,
know?
exactly. I love top water, yeah. And like the springtime is really when the top water bite starts opening up again, too, because that water's getting warm enough. So, yeah, no, I love it.
It was a little tricky when I first learned because you were trying to get that, like, you know what I'm talking about, on the water.
I love that sound effect. That's actually really good.
You just go.
Little.
Just the whole time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, those are fun. I like those active baits. But if I were to go fishing again, like if we ever go fishing, I want to go bow fishing.
Yeah, I actually haven't done it before. I'd be interested to try that. I've wanted to for a while.
Some gar.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any. I don't know if gar like in Austin
Oh,
that
there's
well,
so
but
many. Like, especially in Lake Travis, like getting up in the Pedernales. If you know where Pedernales is?
nope. But let's do it.
Yeah, upper half of Lake Travis, where the Pedernales River intersects into the lake, there are just so many gar. Like, it's actually ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what the law is on that, because they have to be. Do they have to be a certain size for gar? I think they do.
I couldn't tell you honestly because I haven't really done it.
I would have to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be careful though. I mean, obviously, it's like you can't shoot a bass or like any kind of game
Yeah.
fish. I mean, not that I would want to because I don't like killing them, but like
Yeah.
you can't do it with game fish. You got to only do it with like gar and carp essentially, like
Yeah,
what they
gar
call
and carp.
trash fish.
Yeah,
you
trash
know?
fish. Mm-hmm. But that's an important thing. So, with like the Texas wildlife, have you had any issues with wardens? They ever do like a boat check on you and stuff?
Oh yeah, no, I've had. Do you want me to finish with like the seasons
Yes,
and we can
sorry.
get into it? Yeah.
Yes, go
no,
back,
No,
and
I'm
then
so
let's
bad
go
with
to
getting
the-
sidetracked. Yeah.
No, bro. We're not. I mean, you and me both.
So I'll try to finish the seasons because I feel like we've kind of like chopped it up some, and I'll give a little summary of it too because I feel like I didn't do a very good job like
No,
jumping
you've done
into
great,
it.
honestly.
Okay, well, I
like all the
appreciate it.
reminder you've told me right now, it's awesome. And I'm sure there's someone listening, probably my brother Carson or Colton, that's like, okay, all right, I know when to fish now. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, that's good at least. But yeah, so after the spawn, they go into a little state that's called post-spawn. So pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn. Pre-spawn fishing can be really good, like crazy good. Those fish will be feeding like crazy. They get to spawning, and then post-spawn, it can be a little tougher afterwards. I still feel like I have a lot of success during that time period, but I know like just in general, it can be a little bit tougher. But once you've gone about 2 to 3 weeks into the post spawn, the fishing tends to really pick up again. And honestly, it's super hot until you start getting to like, I would say early June-ish time. Once it starts getting really hot, once it's like the mid 90s to 100s is once the fishing will start slowing down again. Because again, you're gonna go through another kind of a water cycle. So during that entirety of the springtime, you're gonna see more fish up shallow than you are out deep. Once you get to the dog days of summer, once it starts getting up over 90 degrees is when it's going to be the reverse. You're going to start seeing more fish out deep than you are up shallow. And it's the reverse reason in the wintertime. It's because the sun's hitting that water, and the top of the water is going to get real hot, while the lower half of the lake that's not getting as much sunlight will stay cooler. So they'll go way out deep in order to get into that cooler water. But again, like I said earlier, though, too, that's not to say you're not going to find fish up shallow. You still find tons of fish up shallow in summertime. I mean, like that's the best time they throw in top water. Like what you really want to do in summertime is get out real early in the morning, throw a bunch of top water up shallow, throw some moving bait, stuff like that. And then as the day goes on, you can go offshore and like work some humps and maybe some points and kind of stuff like that. I will say though, for summertime as well, night fishing is fantastic. Best time of the year to night fish. And we can get into night fishing a little bit more later. I feel like it's a whole different like segue, but I love to night fish. Night fishing is awesome. I've caught more big bass than any other time night fishing. It's really good. In the summertime especially, it's probably the best. It's way better to fish at night in summer than it is during the day. Just because that water's a little cooler and the fish are a little more active because of it. Plus, especially big bass, they love feeding in the darkness of night where they're not seen as easily. A lot of those fish pretty much all day will just go sit out deep and they won't touch anything. But as soon as that sun goes down, they are fired up and they are feeding like crazy. But then we'll jump back into that later. We'll segue towards the fall. So once it starts cooling off and get into the kind of the fall state, it's the same thing. The fish will start coming up shallow, not necessarily to spawn, obviously, but in this case to feed. I love fall fishing. It's probably my favorite time of the year to fish just because fish are super active. You see a lot of schooling activity. Like on lakes like Lake Austin, for example, I catch so many bass early in the mornings when I find them schooled up like in the mouths of coves and stuff like that. Fish are just really willing to eat for most of the fall until you get to the turnover, obviously. But they start getting a lot fatter. It's because they're eating a bunch. It's a good time to catch a big one. Like I love the fall. And it's perfect outside for us. It's perfect outside for the fish. Like it's just great. Then the turnover hits. That kind of slows things down a little bit, and then it starts
we're back to square one.
Exactly. It starts getting colder again, and you'll start seeing more fish go offshore, and they start getting sluggish, and then the whole cycle just repeats.
Whole cycle.
Yep.
Okay. So I can tell you like to fish.
Oh yeah.
Let's play a little game then. You ready? My goal is to get you canceled. Just fair warning.
Okay.
All right. So, all right, you love to fish. Would you rather never fish again, or let's start easy? Let's do a few rounds of this. Let's start easy. Never fish again, or never get married.
That's easy. That's starting easy.
Is that? I told you I'm trying to get you canceled.
I mean, obviously I want to get married. Like, that's gonna be really tough if I couldn't. But at the same time, it's like I think I'd be clinically depressed if I could never fish again. if that makes sense. Like, because technically what you're saying is
Which tail are you wanting to chase is what I'm asking.
you didn't say I can't just date for life. And
I
then
didn't. You could date.
I can get engaged.
I
and
know you as a guy. You would hate that.
It would be really tough as a guy, but also I think I would have like very little meaning to my life and like be clinically depressed if I couldn't fish. So I got to take the fishing route.
Okay.
And then I'll just date and maybe get engaged or something like that. I don't
All
know.
right, fine. No more emotional pain. Let's do
Yeah.
physical. Okay. Would you?
I will say it would take a hell of a woman for that to happen, though. She's got to really love me.
Hey, she might be out there.
I hope so.
Don't we all? Okay, so this is kind of like one of those. I'm getting half of this from like one of those baseball questions we used to do whenever we were in like the bullpens or in the locker room, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But okay, so would you rather never fish again or have to or have to kick a wall? This is very graphic. Viewer
Yeah.
discretion's advised. Kick a wall with a toothpick in between your nail and toe as hard as you can. But once you do that, you can do whatever. Like you can fish.
Oh, yeah. No, I'll definitely do it. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, if you told
There's
me.
no way. I would never do that. Like I love fishing, but
Yeah,
I'll sit by someone who fishes.
I'm gonna be honest with you. If you told me like you gotta get like your legs removed and stuff like that, and like all this crazy crap, I mean, it's literally it's like everything to me. That's the thing. It's like I feel like I can endure a lot of physical pain and even emotional in order to like keep doing it. Because I really do feel if I were to lose fishing forever, it's like, man, I don't know what I'll do next. Honestly.
All right, how do I get you canceled now? Let's do this. All right. Oh, I saw a few streamers go like the would you rathers, but they were like funny. This is a good one. Would you rather be able to fish or end racism?
Wait, but hang on. If I choose end racism, do I still get to fish
No.
afterward? Oh, okay. Well, racism's not going anywhere, I guess. I'm sorry, that's terrible. Everyone should be nice to each other, you know.
No.
I definitely encourage that. But
Agreed. We should all love
yeah.
each other. Racism isn't a joke.
No,
But it
definitely
is in this
not.
case. No, that's funny. I definitely was like thinking about this kind of would you rather's because you could tell like not only in your videos, and I think that's why you've been like had the success you've had is you've taken what you said started out as a hobby.
Yeah,
You've made a passion out of it.
absolutely.
You've
yeah.
learned the skills to like help develop it, and now like you're at where you're at.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
definitely like what I want to do full time
Yeah.
for sure one day. That's the goal. Whether that's YouTube or fishing professionally, which is what I'm going to try and do after college, start that route, or making my own product line or whatever it is. Like I want to do something in the fishing industry because
Yeah.
they always say it's like you do something you love, you're never going to work a day in your life.
Yeah.
That's like for me. I'd never be working a day in my life if I could do it like that.
Yeah, fair enough. And if any of y'all are still mad at that joke, it was a joke. So
No, yeah, seriously.
please don't. We
Got a-
love it.
got
We
a
love
question for
everybody.
you.
All right, what's up?
Do you want any more nerd science? 'Cause I got a little more nerd science that I left out from that last
Let's
piece.
see. Is there any nerd science that like could give me a benefit at fishing to like break a record? By the way, what's your record?
Record largemouth?
Yeah.
A little over 8 pounds right now.
Oh.
Yeah, which honestly, that's still a trophy.
Dude, you're crushing me. I don't think mine's above like 3 or 4. And
Okay.
like 4 is a stretch.
Yeah.
Like I can't lie. I think 3 might be my best ever. And now I mean I'm not fishing every day
Yeah.
or like every week.
Yeah.
But dang, 8? That's I
Yeah.
think that's trophy.
No, it is. Yeah. Anything over 8's a trophy. I've caught one 8-pounder and I've caught probably 57s. That's the thing. I've caught a lot of big bass. I've caught hundreds and hundreds of 6, 5s, stuff in that range. I just
Dang.
haven't gotten that elusive, 8,
I need to go fishing with you.
9, 10 plus pounder. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
man, I catch a lot of 6 and 7s. I've even caught a couple this year already. I really do feel like this spawn might be the year. I have a plan to get a 10 plus pounder because a 10 plus pounder is like a fish for a lifetime. And even though I'm only 19, I still feel like I need to get one at least that size somewhat soon just because of the amount that I do it, the amount of time
Yeah.
I put into it. But I mean, I'm still very happy. I mean, I've caught some really incredible fish. And I feel like for me, more than anything too, is I'm more of a numbers fisherman. Like
Yeah.
there's some guys I know who have bigger PBs than I do, which is personal best for those of y'all who don't know. But I catch more fish than they do, just straight up. Because of what I do and what I've learned, I having YouTube's a great tool because I can actually like keep track like roughly of how many fish I catch per year. And this is gonna make me sound like insane because this just really shows how much I do it. But the last 4 or 5 years, I've been averaging anywhere from about 8,000 to 15,000 bass caught a year.
You told me that, and that's crazy.
Like especially in like the summer months when I'm like able to go almost every day, it's like I'm averaging about 2,000 a month because I'll go out 5 times a week. You know, especially with a lake like Lake Travis, for example, I'll have 3 days that week where I'll catch 80 fish in one day.
You better hope your wife's okay with that.
Exactly. Yeah, I was talking about that every day actually when we're out fishing. It's like I gotta find a woman. She doesn't have to love fishing, like per se. She just gotta be really cool with me doing it a lot.
Yeah.
And just understand like it makes me happy. You know, it's like what I want to do.
Yeah. You gotta be like, hey, look, I fish, and she's like, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah. I'd be like, no.
You don't know what I'm saying. I fish.
Yeah. So for someone like me, max might be like 3.4, 3.6 pounds, right? What is some nerd out science you could give me that will increase my chances of catching a big fish? You talked about the night fishing. If that's somewhere you want to go,
I can get into that. Yeah, I actually have a whole segue. Like a lot of it depends on where you're fishing. Like so certain lakes, you know, are going to have more big fish than others. Like Lake Travis has a lot of fish in it. It has plenty of big ones, but also there's so many fish it can be hard to find big ones. Lake Austin doesn't have as many fish in it, just like population wise, but it has a lot more big ones. You want to start off with that. It's like if I'm looking to catch a true giant, let's go to a lake where there's maybe not as many fish in the lake, but there's more big fish overall.
Yeah.
And second off, it's going to be just like what you're throwing. I mean, you can catch giants on tiny little lures. I've caught bass 7, even close to 8 pounds on lures that are literally 2 to 3 inches long. Like you don't have to throw massive giant lures to do it. But I will say, especially with some guys, like I don't have any really advanced sonar. Like we can get into sonar and stuff too. There's a whole like major debate in the fishing community about different kinds of sonar. There's a new sonar called Live Scope.
Dude's got military specs on his boat.
Yeah, the Live Scope has made a big issue in the fishing community because there's a lot of old time guys who are like, this is cheating. It doesn't count. Like because Live Scope literally what it does is you have a real time feed from in front of your boat, and you can see like fish and animals real time in front of the boat, and you can see your lure when you cast it out. So you're watching a fish, and like you're watching your lure in real time. So you can just see everything. So it takes away a whole element of it.
I honestly don't know if I like that because me, like a lot of my lifestyle, like a lot of I feel like everyone in this generation is so much tech, so much like
it takes away a lot from it. Because rather than going out and just enjoying nature and just like fishing around and stuff and like using your knowledge of where the fish are going to be in order to like catch fish, you're just basically looking down at a screen all day.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. It's like to me, when I go fishing, I go on a walk, hike, whatever you want to call it. I really enjoy like being away from my phone and just being kind of in the outdoors. And hunting, it doesn't almost get any better. I know it's like super boring to some people.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie and say like, oh, I never get bored of going hunting. I do. But that to me, I've had some of the best conversations with my cousins, with my brothers, like with myself and like God and stuff. And so I don't know how I feel about the sonar thing. It'd be cool if I was doing tournament play, you know?
Yeah, so that's the biggest debate, really.
Do they do it in tournament play?
It is. It's legal in all tournaments. That's where a lot of guys get mad, though. It's like, it's the debate. It's like, should this even be legal in tournaments? Because it's literally cheating. That's one side. But the other side, it's like, we've developed technology to use it. It's a great technology. Why shouldn't we use it?
Because then where's the line? Like, should you stop using certain like reels that are really good at like?
Well, it doesn't even matter the reels. It's more of just the lures you're throwing on there.
Well, yeah, I was just saying like the advancement, like it. Like if you're not just gonna stop at the lure,
I got you.
Right.
Yeah,
let's do the pole that we're making out of carbon fiber. Should we only make poles out of wood? You know what I mean? So
yeah, kind of stuff like that.
Like at what point do you draw the line of advancement?
Yeah, for me, this is kind of my idea. And like personally, I don't hate Live Scope. I don't have the money to afford it right now because it's like $5,000 in total.
He says right now, you're gonna spend $5,000.
Oh yeah, no, I hope to have it one day, just as like a tool, and more or less, it's one of those things like everyone has it. I don't want to be disadvantaged because I don't have it. I don't personally love it.
Tell the company you right now. They're not. I mean, they're not gonna see this, but they're gonna see it. Tell them you want a sponsorship.
Garmin, yeah, Garmin.
Oh, it's a Garmin.
Well, there's several different companies that make it, like Lowrance and all them other companies have their own, but Garmin's one who originally came out of it. It's called Garmin Live Scope.
Y'all.
Yeah, hey Garmin, if you want to sponsor me, I've already used your guys' products. I would absolutely love it. You know.
Well, don't filter the market with just Garmin. Anybody.
Yeah,
anybody.
No, seriously, anybody who's got a real-time forward-facing sonar. That's what they're called. They're called forward-facing sonar.
Okay.
Yeah. Hit me up. That'd be pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I will talk only good about it. I promise.
Sweet. But okay, so science. We'll reel it back in.
Yeah. exactly. But to finish off my statement on the last one, my idea for it basically is where I think if you're just casually fishing, use whatever you want. Who cares? You're just casually fishing. It doesn't really matter. Who cares what people say about you? But for tournament angling, I believe there should be series that have it and don't have it. That way both sides would be satisfied because no one would ever be fighting over it anymore. If you have series that only use no live scope and then series that do use it, then it would just be like there's no more fighting because you can go fish whatever series or like watch whatever series you want to. So that's kind of my ending little topic on that. But back to the science of things. So when fishing, especially for big fish, but just fishing in general, it's important to choose the right days to go out. Now, I'm somebody who just tries to fish whenever I can, so I'll go out whenever. But say I don't have as much time, I'm going to try and choose a day that has better weather. And you ask like weather, like how does weather affect fishing? That's kind of what I wanted to segment into. Weather plays a huge role in fishing, especially bass fishing. I mean, and also like saltwater, like everything. Weather plays a massive role on whether the fish are going to be biting or not.
Is it the pressure, temperature? Like, what is it about the weather?
It's mainly, honestly, in my opinion, it's mainly the pressure. I mean, the temperature affects it too. Like, say it's really hot outside, the fish are going to be sluggish because it's so hot. If it's really cold outside, the fish are going to be sluggish because it's so cold. But the pressure has a ton to do with it, and I feel like not everyone necessarily knows about that. And this isn't to say, so we'll get into it. It's basically, so pressure, it's barometric pressure. The median for barometric pressure is just 30.
I heard about this a lot whenever I gone through my ACL and shoulder surgery. Shoulder surgery? I can't, okay.
Yeah.
And dude, a storm would come in like weeks out of surgery, months out of surgery, and for like at least a year. It doesn't happen as much anymore. The only times it does happen is if it's like a crazy big, like drastic storm change.
Yeah.
But I'll feel it like in my knee.
Yeah.
And in my shoulder, and people just thought I was crazy. Like, none of my friends believed me. My parents were like, they didn't really believe me, this and that. I mean, they believed me, but they were giving me a hard time.
Yeah,
and so that biometric, like, I understand that, like, I'm no weatherman or anchorman, but I understand that, like, the weather and all this stuff, like, definitely affects the pressure. So
yeah, so
you think it's the pressure, biometric, average is 30.
The barometric pressure. So you start off.
It's barometric.
Yeah, barometric.
My
yeah.
bad.
So
this whole time it's saying biometric.
No, you're fine. It's all confusing weatherman science stuff. And even I don't fully know all of it, but I know how it affects fishing. If that makes sense. So 30 is like the median. So it's like if you have 30 pressure, that's like it's okay weather. I can still go out and catch plenty of fish probably, but it's not like oh my gosh crazy. If it's lower than that, like in the 29s, it's like okay we're getting pretty low. But once you're like 29, I would say 7, 29.6. That's when it's like, okay, we're getting really low. This last weekend was 29.4. Super low. A lot of times the fish will be super fired up in that case. And it's all because that pressure affects their swim bladder. So fish with swim bladder, obviously, it's what allows them to swim up and down in the water. It's what regulates their body. The pressure plays a direct role on the swim bladder because when it's low pressure, when it's super low PSI, it causes their bladder to like not inflate as much.
Is this why they have that hook when you salt water?
Yes, that is, and that's because when they're coming up from whenever a fish is really deep down, it has water pressure on it, and when you pull it up really rapidly through the water, it'll cause their swim bladder to just expand so much to where it's coming out of their mouth, and you have to poke a little hole into it to allow it to release that air, or else the fish will die.
Does it heal?
Yeah. If you do it right, you gotta know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you can actually kill the fish from doing it.
Oh.
Yeah, so you gotta know what you're doing. But if you do it correctly, it allows the fish just to swim back down.
I knew that was something to do with pressure, but I didn't know they had this whole.
It's like the bends too. I heard the bend like for humans, like whenever
that's kind of scary though, because the nitrogen in your blood.
Yeah, pressure affects a lot of things, but for fish, it affects their swim bladder. Whereas when the pressure's low, I mean, I guess like I've asked you before, it's like whenever it's I guess like kind of I don't know, it's like 70 degrees outside, like the air is just perfect, like you're feeling really good, you have a ton of energy, you're like running around, you feel great. That's usually from like a low pressure front. And the fish are the same way. When it's low pressure, the fish feel great, they're really willing to feed, like the fish are gonna be super fired up. Those are always your best fishing days, whereas it's the reverse when it's really high pressure. So when it's high pressure, it's anything over 30. It can be, 30.1, 30.5, 31, like and just so on. It just keeps going up from there. Whenever it's high, it causes their swim bladder to expand, making fish more sluggish. And that's not to say you can't catch fish when the pressure's high. I've had some great days when the pressure's high. I've caught a lot of fish. But just generally speaking, it tends to slow them down. It's the same thing like I said of humans. You ever been outside like after a storm's come through and it's all hot and muggy and you're just like, man, dude, it feels like crap out here, you know? That's usually high pressure. And whenever these pressures change dramatically, that time in between could be some of the best fishing. Like a lot of times, like pre-storm front, like if it's a low pressure front coming in, like it's high pressure, it's going to drop it way down low. As it's dropping, that fishing can be really, really good. Or even if it's low pressure and you have a high pressure front coming in, right before that front hits, the fishing can be insane. So you want to kind of try and find those times where those fronts are getting ready to come through, because the fishing usually will be really, really good beforehand. And that's generally your best time just to catch fish in general, but even big ones too, because they're just more willing to eat.
The more you know. I would have never thought about it, like how detailed he can get, which I guess gives the argument on why it's a sport. Right?
And I'll also say too, like typically speaking, it depends, but I generally like to fish on cloudy days more often than not, just because the fish can't see your shadow. Like literally, when it's sunny outside, the shadow of the boat, the shadow of you walking like on a bank or just like in general, just like on a boat too, casting off, the fish can see that and that'll spook them. Whereas too, when it's sunny, the fish can see better, so they'll see that lure and they won't touch it. When it's cloudy, it can be a little harder for those fish to see. So generally speaking, especially if you're fishing clear water, when it's cloudier outside, it can make the fishing a little better because it just kind of disorients the fish a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is also what segues into night fishing and why I love night fishing so much.
So what is it about night fishing?
So night fishing is awesome.
Is it scarier?
It can be, yeah. I've got some scary stories actually from night fishing.
Okay, start with those. What's like the scariest thing that's...
Well, it's been with the boat, honestly. I mean, sometimes you just hear like noises and stuff that freak you out at night, but I've actually gotten like stranded in the mud before. I've beached the boat one time before, which I will say it happens to almost everyone, especially learning how to night fish. But when I was 17 on Lake Travis, I'll try to make this short because this is a long story. I'll get the snippets of it, but it was really late at night. I've been fishing.
Were you alone or?
Oh yeah, I was alone. Actually, thank goodness, low key, because if I wasn't, whoever I was with probably would have like wanted to kill me. So I was fishing by myself. I've been fishing for probably 14, 15 hours at this point. I had probably 50, 60 fish in the boat. And thank goodness I had a lot of food and water with me. But I was getting ready to go head back in. It was probably about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning at this time. And Lake Travis, as you probably know, the water's super low right now because it hasn't gotten a lot of rain recently. And I think at the time it was probably 60% full. I mean, now it's like 30. But so this is before I have a really crazy, like I have a 180,000 lumen spotlight that I use nowadays. So I can literally shine it over half a mile away. Like it's ridiculous.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. But this is before I had anything like that. All I would use at this time to like navigate essentially was
Please don't say handheld or like a glow stick.
Not even that. I would just use my sonar charts on my phone to see where I was going. I would use Google
Maps. You had
Maps.
no light?
No light. Well, I mean, I have the nav lights in the boat, but you can't actually see in front of you. So it's just pitch black. You can't see anything. And I mean, I know.
Charlie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, this shows you my logic, especially back then, you know.
Okay.
But I've learned a lot since then. I'm a very experienced captain for my age. I've never gotten
right.
I've never actually really hit anything besides this, I guess. Hey, but it happens to everybody, will say. Like everyone I know has got some kind of story like this. But so I was running. It's pitch black outside, and I'm just in the middle of the lake, and I'm using my sonar. It's like, okay, it's 30 feet deep right here. I'm fine. What I didn't take into consideration is the lake is 31 feet down. So didn't even cross my mind. So I'm just running full speed. You know, it's pitch black. I can't even see my hand from my face.
In the dark?
Oh, yeah. I'm going about 40 miles an hour because that's at least the nice thing. My boat only goes about 40, 42 miles an hour. It's not as fast
Imagine waking up.
Bigger one.
Imagine waking up. It's pitch dark in your room, and you get out of your bed, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to go full speed to the door because I know the door's there, but you're not considering, like, anything on the floor. Like, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy because, like, where I am, too, it's so far away from civilization. It's, like, from city lights, from anything. You can't see anything. All you got is starlights and the moonlight. That's
Can't see your hand in front of your face. That's when that's when it's dark. Like when I've gone night hunting too, and you know you're out of the light pollution areas.
Yeah.
That's when you know it's real.
Yeah, that's how dark it was in this night in particular because it was cloudy.
You're like bugging your eyes big, all stuff like that. Just looking, you know, you can't see anything.
Yeah, but I was running full speed ahead, just, you know, no problem. Looking at my phone, like, all right, you know, it's 35 feet right here. Okay, it's 33 feet right here. And then all of a sudden just boom, 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 like, and I jolt forward, and I can hear the outboard running out of the water. I'm just like, oh shit, this isn't good, you know, essentially. So I turn the outboard off, I trim it up, and I reach my hand over the side, and I feel down, and there's a bunch of soft, squishy mud beside me, and I'm like, oh crap, like this is really bad. So I hop out, and I take my phone out, which my phone's only on 10%, of course, right now too. I shine the light.
Great job.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was just a great job. I mean, in general, you know, I've learned a lot from this experience at least. Yeah. What happened was with the water being so far down, a lot of the bank had been exposed, and basically I just ever so slightly clipped the side of a mud bank. It's like basically like this is the bank right here. My boat's sitting like right here. And I got out and I started trying to push the boat off. I was like, okay, I'll be able to just push it back in the water. It's okay.
Could you?
This is a 1,000-pound, boat stuck in the mud. It's not going anywhere. What was so antagonizing about it though is the fact that like the boat was so close to the water, like the bow of the boat was literally touching where like the water was hitting the bank, but the rest of the boat was stuck on the bank. So I couldn't do anything about it. And I sat there for about 30, 40 minutes trying to move the boat off. And I was like, I'm stuck. This is really bad. It's 2:30 in the morning, middle of nowhere. I'm an hour from my car. Like, this is really, really bad. And I called my dad, obviously, and I was like, hey, this situation. He's like, well, you're pretty effed, man. He's like, I can't really do anything for you right now. I've had a few drinks. It's the middle of the night. I'm trying to go to bed. And so what I did was I actually walked.
Papa Charlie, help.
Oh,
nah,
yeah.
man. I just had a few beers. I'm good. I'll pick you up in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Did he make you sleep in the boat?
Oh, yeah. So there's people said, so I walk up the bank because, there's a bank there and there's a bunch of houses and stuff up top. And I walk up to the street. So I get into the street, I get into the cul-de-sac.
There's
I'm trying to find my bearings. I'm like, okay, here's the neighborhood I'm sitting in. I can send him the pin. He's like, yeah, this is an hour and a half from our house. Like, you're waiting until the morning. But what the problem was, there was a gate. It was a gated neighborhood. She's like, I can't even get in here. She's like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, we're completely perplexed. She's like, I'm going to go to bed. You go to bed as well. We'll just figure this out in the morning. So
And you spent the night
my phone's on 8%. So
in the boat.
Yep. So at this point,
Did you send him a pin?
Yeah, I sent him a pin. So
Okay.
he knew where I was. But he hangs up, I hang up. It's been like an hour at this point, so I got stuck. I lay down in the cul-de-sac in the little neighborhood I walked up to, and I just lay on my back and was like.
It was that moment of like realization.
Yeah, I was like, I'm actually in this, and I never freaked out during the whole thing. I will say, like, I kind of stayed calm, and I was like, I just gotta figure this out. I was like, well, we'll figure it out. So I start walking back down to the boat, and I walk through this lady's yard, and all of a sudden, it's pitch black. I just hear, "Can I help you?" And I just freeze.
It's like 3 a.m., right?
Oh yeah, no, it's like 3 a.m. at this point.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
dead silent, like my heart's pounding. I hear again, "Can I help you?" And a little light turns on, and it's this lady who's on her back porch who's shining a light on me. And I'm sure like her security camera went off or something because I'm like walking through her yard, and I turned to her, and this is literally exactly I'm like, no, sorry, my boat got stuck down there. I'm just walking back down. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. And she literally looked at me, she's like, oh, okay, and then just walks back inside. I'm sure she thought I was on drugs or just like some kind of
Like
crazy
some crazy
person.
person.
Yeah, like probably called the police or something on me. Like, I don't even know. But yeah, I walked back down to the boat after that, and I was like, well, I'm stuck here for the night. This is what I got. So I laid down between the seats, and I got about, 2-3 hours of sleep. Because, it was so uncomfortable.
Do you carry a sleeping bag now whenever you go fishing or no?
Because I don't even want to encourage that. Like, I pulled out a little life jacket, used that as a pillow, and then thank goodness, even though it was the summertime when this happened, it was still pretty cold at night. It's like 65 degrees.
Oh, but the
it's a little
bugs had to be
windy.
crazy.
Somehow they weren't actually. That was a blessing from God. The bugs really weren't that bad. So if they were, oh man, it'd been awful. But I forgot to mention this part too. And the lady saw me. You got to realize I'm in a mud bank, so I'm like knee deep in the mud trying to get the boat out. So I'm covered in mud. I've got blood all over me from the fish I caught earlier in the night. So I'm covered in blood and mud, and she saw me like that, and it's just like,
Dude,
can't imagine what's going through her mind.
Did you video it?
No, actually, I forgot my camera gear that day.
That would have been.
It would have been the craziest video ever.
Priceless.
But also, I was so embarrassed of the whole thing too. It's like, I don't know if I would have posted it because I was
but
so
people
embarrassed.
live for that.
Oh
you know?
no, absolutely. But I was so embarrassed. But so I had a dream while I was out there sleeping on the boat that it was like the bay and the tide came up, and I was able to free myself and go all the way home and get home. And then I woke up because the sun started coming over the horizon. And also, there were so many fish like popping the surface. It woke me up, and I realized I was still out there. And I was like, mother. I was so mad. It was like, I'm still here.
Scaring all the fish, man.
Oh, yeah. But basically, at that point, I got in 3 hours of sleep. I'm awake. The sun's coming up. There's fish like blowing up all over the place next to the boat. So I'm like, I'm stuck here. I might as well fish.
Might as well fish.
So I step up on the deck on the boat that's stuck on land. I take a cast, and first cast in the morning, catch a fish.
Let's go.
Yeah. So after that, I started walking the bank, and took a nasty bank poop because I had to. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, and took a nice one that morning. I caught like 3 or 4 fish, and now it's around probably 9:30 in the morning when I finally hear a little like
And it's your dad.
around the corner. No, it's not my dad. So I was actually in contact with him. He was trying to figure out a way how to get up there and like I guess help me, but also we were still trying to figure out a way to get the boat off too. So we hadn't even figured out how we're going to do it, but at this point we're still trying to like formulate a plan when all of a sudden this other bass boat comes around the corner. Finally, it's the first boat that's ever even been up there since I got stuck, and I've been there for like, let's think,
You've been stuck there for at least 10 hours.
at least 10
this
hours
point,
at this
right?
point. Yeah, like 10, 10, 11 hours at this point. And this boat comes around the corner, and I get on the top, and I'm like flagging him down. And he comes over, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, man, what happened?" And I told him the whole story, and he's like, "Man, all right, let's get you off." And thank goodness he had a tow rope and everything, and he hooked up the front of the tow rope to my boat, and then hooked up to his. And and he's a 250, like a big old outboard on the back of his boat. It's like, all right, so this guy's got to be able to pull me off. He powers down, and the boat just goes skew sideways. My boat doesn't even move, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, I'm screwed. He's like, all right, let's re-rack it. Let's try it again. And at this point, I'm like, if he can't get me off, we're gonna have to get some massive towboat or crane to get me out. I was like, I'm screwed. This cost me so much money. Like, I'm completely ruined. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
He tries it again, and I'm pushing from behind. I see the slightest budge. I'm like, holy cow, okay, what we got is it keeps budging. I keep pushing, and finally it just bursts on out. I hop back in
Let's
it,
go.
get in the water again, and then we unhook the tow rope. And he started talking to me. He was literally the nicest guy ever. Like, and he was going out fishing. He stopped to like help me and all that. Nicest guy, completely understood. Crazy thing was too, when he was 21, he told me he was fishing down on the coast, and he beached his boat on a sandbar in the middle of the night. And same thing, he was stuck all night and had to wait for the tide to come up in the morning. But he also spent like 8 hours stranded, so he'd had the same thing happen to him. He's like, totally get it, man. I spent the next like 20 minutes just flushing the outboard out with all the mud that was in the prop and everything. And literally after that, I just drove the boat back home. There was no scratches, no damage, nothing, because it was just a soft mud bank. And that's what makes me so fortunate. It's like
just some ego that was hurt. That's it.
Pretty much, exactly. Just a little hurt ego, that was it. But if I were to have hit like rocks or something like that, I mean, I could have killed myself. Like, I really could have died. So it was a very scary situation. It ended up working out, but yeah.
One thing that I worry about is like when people are tubing, like or me, you know, there's a lot of lakes in Texas that are man-made.
Oh yeah.
And when they're man-made, most of the time, they don't cut down all the trees in time before the lake fills up. And so
those are the stick-ups. As fishermen, we love those.
I mean,
those hold tons of fish. But I can imagine, you know, it's like someone tubing. That's scary.
Well, what's scary is like those trees, they will like, I don't know if this is the most accurate term, but they actually become like rock solid, and so they're almost they're basically petrified.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know if they are, but I guess they are.
They are, because they're old and dead. And we even call them like petrified forests that are underwater.
Yeah, well, that's what's scary to me is you can be like tubing on a man-made lake or any lake for that matter, and if there's a tree that has been there, you know, and you just like.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, some of them, too, they'll be, like, just below the surface. You can't even see them. I've actually drilled them before with the trolling motor.
That's what I mean. They can be less than a foot away from the surface.
You can't even see them,
And you can't even see them, which is, like...
That's scary. I never even thought about that,
Crazy.
Because, I mean, I've hit them with my trolling motor before, which I can only imagine how bad that would hurt tubing, like hitting your leg or something.
Well, bro, it's rock at that point. Like, it's not budging. Like, if you hit that...
Oh, yeah. I know for sure.
Your chest is caving in, cracks are happening, you're losing a lung, whatever it is.
That's
like,
scary, yeah.
You know, but...
I would just stick to tubing on Lake Austin, then in that case. It's Lake Austin doesn't have any.
I actually have a funny, it's like kind of tubing story. So I did a podcast with these guys, Hutch and Ben Shepherd, and then Cole Johnson. Love those guys so much. So we went tubing on Lake Georgetown.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know how the fishing is in Lake Georgetown. It doesn't look good.
It's terrible. It's literally called the Dead Sea.
Okay.
The thing is, though, I haven't fished it yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to fish it at least once just because I want to mark every like Central Texas lake off my list. That's one of the last ones I haven't fished yet. So I'll fish it just for the heck of like fishing it. But like it's not
You might want to wait till you're 21 to fish it and then drink some beers. Like
just take the pain away.
There's no fish there.
Oh yeah, no, it's terrible. Honestly, what I'll probably do is I'll launch there, fish for like 2 hours, then go up north to like Belton or Stillhouse or something, and I can just be like, all right, I fished it, cool, whatever.
Fair. One cast, leave.
Yeah, pretty much.
But so we like get his boat and we start tubing, and so like, you know, us college guys, like if there's a college dude behind the wheel, like our goal is to make like full speed, like whip you off.
Yeah.
And so we're taking turns, and eventually it gets to my point, and at the time we didn't really know this, but like the way we're tubing, it's this kind of central hub for people to tube because there's no like dangerous petrified trees there.
Yeah.
And there's this whole ledge where a lot of people from Georgetown like to tan or have a picnic or whatever.
Jump off. Like Lake Travis and Austin, they all got the same kind of places.
They like rock cliff dive or whatever. Well, we didn't really know at the time, but on that ledge there was a bunch of like Southwestern kids, and it was basically like the girls soccer team and the men's football team. And then it was us baseball players / ex-baseball players, like all tubing. And so it's my turn, and I'm like, I get on the back of the tube, and I think it was me and Ben on the tube. And Ben's like Navy SEAL unit awesome dude. Like, he's
Yeah.
so dope. I don't know if he's achieved the Navy SEAL yet, but that's like been his goal for a long time. So Ben, good luck, bro. I hope you make it. But so like we're on the tube. I think it's us, or it's just me. And dude, I'm getting just like torn up, like full throttle. It's a tiny boat, like decent sized motor, getting torn up. But what I hadn't realized is I didn't really pack a bathing suit, and so my only bathing suit that I had was like a couple years old. Dude, it rips. Like, I'm not talking like, oh, like I lost my suit. Like, it rips from like my hip flexor area all the way down, like vertically.
So it's destroyed.
Oh, it's
killed.
gone. It's gone. And thank God for one of my boys, like way back, who was like, bro, it's so much better to wear underwear with like swim trunks. And so like I was wearing underwear under.
I did the same thing. Yeah.
I used to not when I was like 5 or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Because you're just a kid. You don't know any better.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
But you grow up and you like, thank God for him, because if not, bro.
Yeah, it'd just be all out
It
on
would have been
display
bad.
for everybody.
And so like the reason this is funny is we end up going up to the rocks with the football team and the soccer girls, and
You're just like in your underwear.
dude, like it was just all out. I like tried to tie it up with some fishing line. It just looked dumber. I ripped it. I just, you gotta embrace it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
That's awesome. So you're with all those people like just during.
and it's like it's college, so
Yeah.
we're all like having a social party or whatever by the rocks, and
Well, I know. You may have said, I forgot. Was it the men's or women's soccer team?
women's. So
Ooh,
football
okay.
team, baseball team,
Yeah.
women's soccer players.
Okay.
Like, but everyone was cool. But like
They don't care. Yeah, no, we're all cool about it.
we all kind of knew of each other. It was all chill. Like, it is what it is. But my boys, like, I'll never forget that like story. And honestly, that day was so much fun because we were driving on the way there, and like right when we had like hit a bridge, we like lost the tube out of the back of our truck because someone didn't tie it down. I forgot who it was, and it flies like over the bridge and gets hooked up perfectly. We're like the idiots on a highway. We're getting off the highway. We're like pulling up this tube, like cops like are driving by us, and none of them like question or stop what we're doing.
Well, that's good at least. Yeah. Oh, I've had that with
But-
like even fishing rods before, like falling off. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, eventually,
bit.
like what I think was happening, the same cop was like driving by like 2 or 3 times, and then he eventually stopped traffic for us, which was great.
Oh, really? Like, that's cool.
But
Yeah.
like it was all hell broke loose, like get the tube, like all this stuff. And then Hutch, one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard in my life, he was like, rule number 1 of towing a boat, never forget you're towing a boat. And like to this day, I think that is so like,
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
it's
I
so
mean,
funny and so true.
I've been there before, like going too fast, especially. Or like there'll be times where you forget you're towing it. You'll take a curb too sharp, and you feel the back wheel of the trailer just pop up on the curb and like go slamming down. It's like, oops.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to do that, but
But yeah, time with the boys on the lake is great. So I know you're a football player. Mm-hmm. So collegiate football player.
correct.
I know it's
yeah.
D3. Haters gonna hate whatever it
I know,
is.
yeah,
you know.
exactly,
But a lot of people in D3, they play for the love of the game, and they
Exactly.
typically get like a good degree. You know, it's not what's the word? It's not like great. Now I'm stumped. It's not like boom or bust. You know what I mean? Is Mike okay? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little bit
Oh,
there.
no,
yeah.
you're good.
Now we're
But
chill.
yeah, it should be fine as long as you don't flick the arm. It's like
Yeah.
usually does well, but it's not like boom or bust. It's not like go
exactly.
pro or not. So what got you like? Why? Tell me that story about football.
About football, yeah, no, for sure. So I mean, football was like my second love behind baseball, or not even baseball, fishing.
Would you give up marriage for football?
No.
Okay, there you go.
If that
See,
gives you an
that's
idea.
the line.
So in high school, my 2 loves for sports were baseball and football. And baseball was actually my main sport for the longest time.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks because I wish I was always a baseball player growing up, and I played football secondary. And I wish I would have just given baseball up a long time ago, because if not, I'd probably be playing D1 football right now. That's the
Yeah.
only thing. And I'm happy I'm not, honestly, at this point, because it's like D3 football still allows me to fish all the time. It's like I can play football and go fishing a lot. So it's like I can live pretty much best of both worlds. Whereas when you're playing D1, it's like that is your commitment. Like D1's
Yeah,
football.
I
it's
mean, a
all
lot
you're
of
doing
kids, they
constantly.
jeopardize their degree plan just to,
Absolutely.
like, I know some people that, like, they're smart enough to do something else, but they're, I'm going for this general studies major.
Yeah.
But I'm making, like, they're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to make it. And I've had a few of them make it, and they get the signing bonus, and it's worth it.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely.
If they treat the money right, like, that's the question.
Yeah. No, but for me, I played both football and baseball in high school. Baseball was generally what I considered my better sport growing up. I was always much better at football. I just didn't put as much time into it.
Yeah.
But baseball is what I tried my hardest at. And it was my junior year. I got like 3 or 4 offers in baseball. I actually had a chance to play here as well. A couple opportunities to play, but it was late junior year. Like, it was the summer before my senior year was when I really started kind of getting just burned out of it. And, like, I hurt my arm. My arm wasn't doing well for me. I kind of – you ever heard of the yips? Because you used to play baseball too.
Yeah, so I played baseball all the way up until my sophomore year of college. Then
I didn't realize you played here even too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I know of the yips.
Yeah.
I have experienced 2 teammates with the yips.
Yeah.
One pitcher and one, I think he was an outfielder.
I was an outfielder.
But,
I'm a lefty. You're a lefty.
The outfielder's yip, in case you don't know what the yip is, it's basically you're physically fine. You like you can throw a ball.
It's hell to say that.
But you mentally, for whatever reason, go into this like psychotic state to where whatever you're trying to execute, you can't throw. Yeah. And it's always the weirdest thing. It's like if a pitcher, it's like, oh, he has his yips on his curveball, to where anytime he tries to throw his curveball, it's in the stands. We had an outfielder once for one of my teams I played for, and his yip was he couldn't hit the cutoff man. Like, you tell him to throw it to the bag, dime. Yeah. You tell him to, toss it over to, like, I guess the cutoff man when there was no play, perfect. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anytime runners on bases, you need to hit the cutoff man. Dude, it would like sail left or right up it wasn't even catchable.
It's interesting. So that's how mine started. So I was the same way. I was an outfielder. I was lefty. I had an okay arm, not a great one. I should have a better arm for my size. I had a really good bat. That's what got me on my offers. I could hit, I had a lot of power. I struck out a decent amount. I will say I needed to cut my strikeouts down, but I could really hit for the most part. But my fielding was okay, but it was just like my throwing. I mean, I would just sail the cutoff every time. Same thing. I mean,
you were the problem.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. And my coaches were just so like fed up with it and so pissed off at me. Like, you got to get your throws down, or you're not playing anymore. Like, I mean, they were pissed. Like, couldn't do it. And I've always been really hard on myself. I mean, I'm very competitive with myself, and I expect really great things from myself, and I'm very like hard on myself, but also like in a good way, I guess. It's like I'm hard on myself because I want to do well, and it's allowed me to do really well in both fishing and in football. But in baseball, I got so much in my head to the point to where I couldn't throw anymore. And
you can't be hard on yourself in baseball.
Especially since I've stopped playing, I've learned that so much.
It's just different. And also the pain of, like, you talked about your arm hurting. The pain that you have playing baseball is different than, like, a football pain.
Oh, absolutely. It's so different.
You're getting in a car wreck. I mean, George Kettle said it best. You're getting in a car wreck every week, and it's a streak of luck whether or not you get injured or not.
Yeah, pretty
Baseball, it's like guaranteed if you continue doing something and like don't take time, like hours after a game for rehab or whatever, it's going to be painful.
Football, for the most part, is bangs and bruises, and then you'll get severe injuries. Baseball is all the annoying muscle and like tentacle injuries.
Stretching out your own tendons,
put
like
you
till
out
they
forever.
pop.
And it's so annoying. I've dealt with so much of it through it, but what ended up happening was I got so much in my head through like overthrowing that I started underthrowing. I was short arming a bunch.
So you were hitting your cutoff man?
No. When I say short arming, I mean literally I'm spiking. It got to the point where I'll do warm-up throws. Like, I could be standing here, you could be standing at where the phone is, like literally the podium. Like, we could be 10 feet apart, and I would spike it into the ground at my feet. I kid you not. I would do my full throwing motion, and I would spike it into the ground. Like, and I'm not even like trying to. It's like literally my throwing is so just whacked out. And I'm so in my head. And it got to the point, it was so embarrassing to where I stopped going and warming up. I wouldn't warm up anymore. Because at that point in the summer, I was just DHing. Because again, I mean, I had a good bat. I was batting 3-hole for a national team. And we were doing well. I got a few more offers. I actually got one D1 FCS offer. We were playing in Georgia. Did you ever play in any?
Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Did you ever play in any of like the Perfect Game national tournaments?
Yeah, my Perfect Game isn't the best. I had like a shot arm of that one, but they rated me a good grade. I just like everything was okay about that day, except for my pop time was listed at like a 2-1.
Oh, you were a catcher?
Yeah.
That's sick, yeah.
At that time, I probably could have been like a 2-flat kind of guy. I couldn't really break 1-9 consistently. Sorry, I couldn't break 2 consistently until I reached college.
Okay.
And that like would hurt me a lot with, I guess, recruiting.
Yeah.
That's why I ended up D3. But
yeah, I mean that's what I was mainly looking at too.
Yeah. But I remember on like my PG grade, they like scale you 1 through 10.
Yeah.
If you can hit like 6, 7, 8, I forget which one it is. It's like, oh, this guy should play college.
Yeah.
And then the next one is this guy is definitely D1 college.
And then he's
could
like
play
a
pro.
Yeah.
Like I was the one to where I should play college, but it didn't say D1. Like that was the next level.
Yeah, I don't even remember what mine was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But what was big for me, and this is how I got the offer. So it was first game of the tournament. It was literally first at bat, and it was the same game though where in pre-warm-ups I was spiking the ball on the ground. So I was done. I was like, I was so in my head throwing.
Bro, just hit the ball. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I was like, I just want to go hit. The guy we were facing, he was. I think he was a Clemson commit, I want to say. He was throwing about 93, 94 on the mound, and I faced him. It was a wood bat tournament. And first at bat, he got me down 0-2. But honestly, I mean, he was throwing hard. He was throwing about 94, but he had a flat fastball, so I was seeing it well. Got me down 0-2. I fouled one off. And then on the fourth pitch of the at-bat, still 0-2, he threw one just dead middle on the outside part of the plate, and I took him yard, opposite field.
Let's go.
And that was huge. That's what got me that offer there because there was tons of scouts behind home plate. You know, obviously taking a major D1 guy yard,
That's awesome,
was big time. And then he struck me out the next two at-bats.
No,
but,
yeah, I mean, you pissed them off. So, I mean.
yeah, but they were good at-bats, though, too, I will say. It was just he would get me late in the count. And he got me on a curveball one of the times, too. It was kind of a tough call, but.
It's crazy how like good people can be at baseball, especially developmentally. Like one year they suck, and the next year they're like all district.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And I remember for me, like my injuries in high school were like huge to me. I hated it, like because you just regress so much, and it's like the moment.
Injuries have always plagued my playing career in both sports.
But the moment you step out of a sport for a certain amount of time, like you're behind. And so I remember. Like before I was ready to hang it up, there was a like DBU pitcher, lefty, like low 90s. So that's pretty good. Yeah. And
especially a lefty throwing.
That's
lefty. Crazy.
And so he like, I knew it was like my last summer playing, like just for fun, right? And you know, I hadn't called coach yet, but I was just kind of like enjoying time with the boys, and my brother was on the team at my time. You know how everyone has that team, so it's like you wish you could go back and play for?
Yeah,
like,
I got a couple of those.
Luckily enough, and like praise God for this, my last team I ever played for is the team I would always want to go back to play for. Besides maybe like one high school team, but
my high school teams were terrible. Like there's so much politics involved.
There always is, and it's unfortunate. But I had
that's why I love summer ball though.
Yeah, summer ball is cool, but I loved my coach for high school, Coach Washburn, and I had a lot of good guys on there. But besides the point, we had this DBU pitcher, and I remember, you know, I was like, dang, I'm going to end my career, and I'm going to hit a home run on each side of the field except like dead center. Yeah. And I'm never going to hit like a collegiate home run. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to do that. And it wasn't necessarily like that week or that at bat, but like going into
like
summer. That summer,
yeah.
like that was my mindset. I was like, I'm going to hit a collegiate home run in a game. And I'd gotten close in scrimmages. I'd done obviously enough in BP, but I had never like done it in a game. And so, and literally my first home run was left field. And then in high school,
I think mine been too, honestly. Yeah. Even though I'm a lefty, I hit a lot of oppo.
Okay, yeah. So then in high school, my first home run was oppo. Wind was crazy that day.
Oppo
I can't
taco,
lie.
baby.
I was a doubles hitter. Like that was my like mindset and approach. So when the wind picked up that day, it helped me out. But then this DBU guy gets up there and he's got me 3-0, and dude, scouts are like all behind us.
Oh yeah.
And you know, as a D3 kid, you turn around, you see scouts from like, you know, Sam Houston, HBU, HCU now. I guess they changed their name, and all these other schools. Like you're gonna show out a little bit. So he's got me 3-0, and like I'm not taking that pitch like with these scouts behind me. Yeah. So I hit it, and it just doesn't stop, and I ended up hitting like center field, and it was like one of the best moments of my career, just like rounding the bases, because it was one of those moments to where like I could say goodbye to baseball. Yeah. And I hadn't been able to say goodbye to football and basketball in high school because my injuries happened, and that was it. Like I didn't know I was never going to play those games again. But in baseball, it was like rounding those bases. I was like, you know, this has been fun. Like I love this game. My last AB ever could be a strikeout. Yeah. And like I've done what I can here. And of course in my head I'm like, yeah, like Sam Houston, offer me please. But like realistically I knew like it's stuff like that you get to go back in. But anyway, sorry, I did my whole spiel. You continue with yours.
Honestly, that leads me into my last bit of baseball too. By the end of that summer, I was like, I knew I was done. Especially because like I'd been moved. I'll get into my football story more too. But I've been moved up to varsity the last year. I won a state championship of Westlake, which is really cool.
You went to Westlake?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Went to Westlake High School in Austin, Texas. You know, if any of y'all follow high school football, no, we were pretty dang good.
Yeah, one of the big Texas schools. Yeah,
we won 3 state championships in a row, and I was on the team for the final of those 3. as a junior, which was pretty neat. I never expected to even be on that team. I mean, I literally midway through the year got moved up, and I didn't get a whole lot of playing time my junior year, but it really showed me, I guess, what big boy football is like. And honestly, like I said too, I didn't put as much time into football at that time, but I was still really competitive, and I played really well, and I had a lot of teammates telling me, like, dude, you're really dang good. You just need to put some weight on. Because I was small for baseball. I was like 185 pounds playing, O&D line.
Yeah.
At 6A, that's tiny.
That is tiny.
Yeah, so my coaches were like, hey, man, just put some weight on. You're going to get a lot of playing time. You might be able to play this game to the next level. Yeah. So I had that, like, in my mind while still playing baseball. And baseball, I was just so much in my head, and I wasn't having fun anymore, and I was just hating it. I was like, I got football here, too. I was like... So I had a pretty good idea in the summertime that I was done. And I had a very similar kind of situation. It was in our final ever game with that team. We made it to a championship against our other team from the same organization. So it was basically, it didn't matter who won. We were taking a trophy home either way. But we ended up getting smoked pretty bad. I won't lie. We were out of pitching. I mean, we just ran out of pitching.
Yeah, pitching's vital. It's important.
We got beat like 10-2. But they had this one kid who was just a freaking beast. I feel bad. I can't remember his name. But he hit like 2 home runs that game. And then they put him in the close, the final inning. And
so he hits 2 bombs and then comes in close.
He's a UTSA commit.
What
which
a dude!
Is funny. Yeah, he's funny because we were playing at UTSA. He was UTSA
commit. He had to show out.
So he had to show out. His coach there watching him.
I mean, forget the coach, the ladies that he's going to see her there. You know what
exactly,
I mean? Like, he's got to get ready.
Yeah, he's got to have a really good, first performance.
Yeah, first impressions matter.
Oh,
you know.
So he hit 2 bombs, feeling himself. Great. He's a righty, but big old righty, throwing about 92 off the mound. Got some good movement on his pitches. I'd faced him one time before, and it was in, I think, live ABs, like in a scrimmage early on in the year, and he struck me out, but I was seeing him really well. So I was really mad. I was like, man, I can hit this dude. Like, I got this guy. And I go up there, and I think I took the first one. It was a little bit outside, but it was a fastball, seeing it well. Next pitch, there was another fastball, again, kind of on the outer part of the plate, and I just smoked it on a line to left field. Just a perfect line drive, one hopper to the left fielder, I mean, it was just a single, but it was like probably one of the hardest hit balls I'd ever hit. I mean, I just freaking tattooed it. And it felt so good because, like, I knew in my mind walking up to that at bat, I was like, this is probably going to be my final ever at bat. It's like, please don't strike out. Please don't something good. So I got the first base, and, like, in my mind, I was so happy because I was like, I think this is probably the end of my career. And then the next 3 guys all got struck out. So that was it. I mean, that was the end of it. Yeah. And so this is kind of the same thing. I didn't hit a home run in my career, but at the same time, it's like I took a D1 pitcher on a line drive for a single the opposite way. It's like, can't ask much more than that in my final at bat. And I was struggling too at that point of the year as well. I hadn't even gotten a hit probably in the last 2 or 3 games. It's like I was really down the dumps by everything. And I was like, so that was just such a good high point to end on after so much just failure and just, I guess, mental problems and just sadness I've been having at that point.
Hey, baseball's the game of life. If you fail 7 out of 10 times, you'll go to the pros.
Exactly. That's the crazy thing.
You'll get a multi-million-dollar contract. Yep. You'll go in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. Hall of Famer is someone who's 300. Hall of Famer is someone who succeeds 3 out of 10 times.
Yeah, like if you fail 70% of the time.
Yeah, you're a Hall of Famer.
You're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
It's
ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And it's hard to think of that. Like when you're actually playing, I feel like it's hard to think of it that way. At least for me, it was. But
because you're like, I'm the best. Like you have to have that. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about, I think, athletes in general, but specifically baseball players. Like they're always this persona of like really cocky individuals. Yeah. But I'm just here to tell you, like baseball players are great guys.
Oh yeah, no, I love all my team. I'm still really good friends with a lot of them.
But when the uniform comes on, if you're not that dude who's like in your head about like I'm the best player, like you're going to strike out. You're going to fail. Yeah. And that's why a lot of players in baseball, they'll have like issues with being too cocky, like and not being humble enough when they play or like good teammates, you know?
And my problem was too, is like whenever I would have good weekends, like man, like I told you, I hit some serious home runs. I had a few weekends where I had was one time, I think it was my sophomore year. I want to say during the summertime. It was 2 of my like 3 final games for that year. I hit 3 home runs in a row. I hit 1 to end one game, then I hit 2 to begin the next game. Ooh. Like, I mean, I was feeling myself, like that kind of thing.
Let's go, baby.
Oh, yeah. Like, I struggled with getting too high during the highs and then too low during the lows. And baseball's one of those things, you got to ride the middle. When you're doing really well, you got to still stay in the middle. When you're doing really low, you still got to stay in the middle. Yeah. And I definitely struggled with that. So.
No, I get it. Okay, so baseball ends for you, and then you're like, I'm going to go play collegiate ball.
Well, so for me, I had a few offers in baseball, but I was just so burned out of it, and I just hated it so much. I was like, I just don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. I was like, let's try this football thing. Yeah. All my coaches are telling me I'm really good at it. All my teammates think I can play at the next level. let's go see what I can do. And I always love football just for the physical aspect of it. I love contact. I love being physical. I can't get enough of it. I love the game of football so much. I just hadn't committed enough time to it. So I finally decided to commit my time to it. And during my senior year, I went into that season 190 pounds the first day of training camp. By playoff time, I was 215. By the end of playoffs, I was almost 230. I did that in 5 months.
It's a bunch of milkshakes and peanut butter jellies and ice cream.
I put on 40 pounds in 4.5 months.
That's a workout itself.
Oh, I was eating 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day.
That's insane.
I mean, hell. It was literal hell. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Like, hated it so much, but because of it, I started the year off as a 2, which I feel like in itself is still pretty impressive for a program like Westlake being 190 pounds. I was mainly playing O-line, too, at that point, because they wouldn't let me play D-line because they loved me on the O-line so much. Yeah. And then by midway for the season, I was not starting every game, but I started a good amount of games, and I was kind of like a rotational starter, I guess. I was like our plug-and-play guy. I would pretty much play every position on the line they needed me to play.
Yeah.
And that year I ended up starting about 3 or 4 games, and I played in almost every game, and I got enough playing time and enough footage on me to where Coach Carr here at Southwestern came calling, and he was like, hey, man, I'm seeing your film. You're a real physical player. He was like, I'd love for you to come play D-line for us. And I was like, well, Coach, that's awesome. That's a dream. But also realized I'm playing O-line, though. He's like, oh, yeah, I know. He's like, but you don't look like an O-lineman. He's like, you're 225 pounds, what it was at the time. He's like, you fit the D-line perfectly. You're physical, you're big, you're aggressive. It's like, I think you'd be a really good fit here. And ended up, after the season was over, touring the school and talking with him more. And it was my dream as a kid was always to play sports in college.
Yeah.
But I always imagined that was going to be baseball. Yeah. So it was so crazy when I finally
weird how life works sometimes.
Yeah, I flipped up the football, and then after talking with him over the Christmas break and stuff like that, once the season was done, I was like, yeah, man, I love football. I hadn't played D-line in about 2.5 years at that point. I was like, let's give it a try. Let's go for it. Let's see what happens. And I did, and ended up committing here, obviously, and I'm still here to this day. And now I've gotten up to 240. I had a really good training camp in the fall last year until I got hurt, unfortunately. I ended up hurting. I have 2 discs in my back that are inflamed that were pressing on my sciatic nerve, which causes pain all the way down my right leg. And that's definitely derailed a lot of things for me. It's been a really bad injury. I've had back problems in the past, and it's haunted me here. And I'm still in pain now, 5.5 months in, but we're getting better. So fingers crossed. It's crazy because it's like I've been given the opportunity I always wanted, and that is to play in college. But now it's like, will my body just give me the opportunity and the chance to go show what I can do and go get the ability to play? Yeah. And like for me, it's like I don't know what my story is at this point. I don't know if I'm going to keep playing here all 4 years, or if I'm going to go transfer somewhere else, try to play at a higher level once I gain more weight and get some film of myself, or is it just like my body's not going to allow me to play anymore because I'm so banged up, and then I go transfer somewhere and do like collegiate bass fishing or something. It's like, I don't know. But at this point, I'm leaving it all up and, to God, put it into his hands. I pray about it every night, and it's just, we'll see where it goes. I don't know at this point. I trust in him.
As a Pirate graduating this May, I would say stay at Southwestern. But one thing I would say is if your football career continues or you just want to do something bass fishing and you like a lot of elements on Southwestern, mainly its size. My brother goes to East Texas Baptist in Marshall, Texas. And I'm almost positive within the last 4 or 5 years they have been the reigning national champs for bass fishing.
Yeah, they have.
At least like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, they have a very good team over there as well as, I remember talking to them for baseball and football too, so I know that school pretty well.
So, hey, and I'm not telling you to leave. What I'm saying is they have a grad school. I think they have a grad school.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I couldn't
If they don't have a grad school, ignore everything I said. If they do have a grad school. But, no, dude, it's tough. Like, injuries...
They suck.
Injuries suck, and injuries are a part of sports. But if you don't get injured playing sports, you're not trying hard enough.
Exactly,
So, but you've been able to, I don't know how your experience was, but a lot of my like really close friends are from the baseball team. So what about you? Or did you get to find a lot of your boys?
Through football. Yeah, and that's been pretty much all my connections. Obviously through football, and then doing like FCA and Bible study. That's where pretty much all my other connections have come from. And it's been great, really, because like I knew I would have the friends from football. Obviously, just because like whenever you're playing on a team, it doesn't matter what sport it is, those guys are going to be your friends. I mean, you may not be best friends with everybody, but like you're going to find those guys on there because most of the time y'all share common interests and you're all playing for the same team, so you'll have those bonds. I mean, all my closest friends throughout high school and middle school and whatnot were all from like sports teams, whether it be baseball or football.
Yeah.
But also what I was looking forward to was a really good just like Christian community here, because I won't lie, like when I was a little kid, I was super, super close to God, read my Bible every single day. Like my family, we grew up going to church all the time. I feel like since COVID hit especially, we've been really bad about it. We weren't going to church as much. I wasn't reading my Bible as much. I mean, I still pray most nights, but I really felt like I'd kind of gotten away from God in some ways. So I was looking for something here like that, and I'm just really happy I've kind of found the community that I feel like we have here on Southwestern.
Yeah, I mean, ironically enough, we're in God's house right now.
Yeah,
we did
I know,
not
seriously.
really plan this for you viewers, but since we're on the topic, I guess like I think Southwestern's interesting because it's a culture that strives for everything to be accepted.
Yeah.
And whenever you have that kind of mindset to where everything's okay, you really don't stand for anything but like that everything's like on the same level field. And I'm not trying to I'm knocking Southwestern in that aspect, but I'm not trying to knock the school because like culture will always change every 10 to 20 years. What Southwestern's culture is now is like could be different later.
No, exactly.
And what's sad is like I was here before like COVID. And what's
Oh yeah, that's crazy. What was that like? I mean,
so what's crazy that's what I was gonna say. What's crazy to me about that aspect is like the biggest thing you heard on your visit was like Southwestern is a great community. Southwestern is a great community, like over and over again. And during my freshman year and on my visit, like that was there. And I'm not saying it's not here anymore. It's actually gotten a lot better. But when the year of COVID hit, year of 2020, right? You had the election, you had COVID, you had like the riots, you had all these different things like building up, and everyone just exploded on each other, like
I'm sure.
on campus, off campus, on the news, it doesn't matter. And what happened is you really had like more of a divisive culture to where people were just labeling everybody.
Yeah.
And I hate, like, I know we made jokes earlier this podcast, but you and I both, like, I feel are very loving people when it comes down to it, and we can understand.
Definitely
like,
try to be.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant. Like, we try to be, and so like we know when it's real talk, and we know when it's like, okay, we're joking. But in that aspect, like Southwestern was really hurt by, I think, not having like Christ as a foundation.
Absolutely.
Through, I guess it used to at some point through its traditions, because traditionally this is a Methodist school.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, the reason there's a school called SMU in Dallas is because of Southwestern. They wanted to like become a bigger school, and we said no, so they just like split the board or whatever. I don't know the details, but
I have heard some of that.
we are the founders of SMU, so there you go.
First university in Texas too. I mean, it's pretty dang cool.
Yeah, first university in Texas. We got, I don't know if we were sued or if it was just kind of like, hey, we're doing this, but like we used to be called Texas University, and then the state was like, hey, we want that name.
Yeah.
And then we were called Southwestern, but then so was Texas State, and then we were like, hey, we're taking that name.
Yeah.
So like a bunch of like name changes, but anyway, to get back to that Christian community, I think with all that said, right, like not knocking Southwestern in like a way to where like don't come here, but what's really cool is you could go to a campus like a TCU or A&M to where it's kind of this bubble of like people that are talking about Christianity and stuff, but there is probably more of a risk, and I'm being stupid here and generalizing, but from people I know, there's more of a risk to where you'll meet people who say they're Christians, and that's not their priority, I guess is the best way to say it. And they're not willing to like stand for what it means to be a Christian, right? And I don't really like care what people do. I would just say like, if you're gonna label yourself as something, at least stand for it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So
don't say one thing and do something else.
That's what I'm getting to. I'm not trying to be judgmental. It's just like, just take a stance, you know? Like, let's all be fun, and like we can, have a debate or whatever. But I'm not usually looking for a debate. But anyway, my parents might tell you different. I do debate with them a lot. Love them. But what was I going to say? At Southwestern, it's different. Like, you have the pressure. Like, it's a little bit more hostile towards the gospel. Like,
absolutely,
if you're truly following like that kind of doctrine, which I do believe to be truth, you're definitely not sought after, but you're isolated at certain degrees. And so what I really like about that is at TCU or College Station, oh, like everybody's a Christian. But here, if you label yourself as a Christian, that pressure genuinely kind of gives you people like, hey, I can trust Charlie. Hey, I can trust Aaron, right? Like one of your guys that you fish with all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's...
Heck, we were just fishing 2 days ago.
Yeah. And so I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's one of its Southwestern's worst qualities, but it's also one of its best.
Yeah,
because you get to kind of know, who's who. Mm-hmm. But I mean, everyone's like, it's gotten to the point now. It used to be to where it was really bad. It's now gotten to the point to where you're starting to see the community build back up, and everyone still has their like clique groups or whatever, which I don't really like, but whatever. You're now starting to see to where people with different identities, different beliefs, or different like whatever, as of last year, are now starting to interact again. It's no longer divisive.
It's no longer like just such a house divided.
You're starting to see it gel more, which is how it was freshman year. So I truly believe, like, with the current people that have been running Southwestern, I wouldn't agree with everything they do, but they have been making strides in that category, and I'll applaud them for that. And a lot of it's the students. So anyway, getting to something, unless you had anything to add.
Nah, I feel like we kind of hit a lot of things, honestly. Yeah.
But one thing is, I want to talk about like Aaron, your guy you always fish with. So like Aaron,
boy right there.
Between your boy Aaron and the other guys you bring on your boat, like what's been some of the, and we'll end with this, I guess, but what's been some of the just like best conversations you've got to have on the boat? Because those guys, like, how it is in baseball, like, you're sitting in the bullpen waiting to go in, or, you're in the dugout waiting for your at bat. Like, you'll look over to your buddy and you'll be like, hey, like, are aliens real? And you have this full on conversation. But, so what's been, because I feel that's the only thing we didn't get to talk about fishing. Yeah. A lot of people find it boring, but it's that aspect of being boring that brings out like genuine conversations, or like they help build genuine relationships.
I will say too, fishing is only boring if you don't know what you're doing.
Okay, shots fired.
I mean, hey, even for me, I can go out and only catch a fish or two in a day, but I'm still having the time of my life.
Right.
But,
no, I get it.
I know what people do mean by the time, like when they're saying fishing's boring.
Yeah.
I get that.
Because some people think baseball's boring. Some people think
exactly.
The weirdos think football's boring. I don't know how you do that. But
I don't understand that one for sure. But, I mean, fishing can just be slow, and you can have long times without catching fish. So I understand that. But, yeah, I mean, fishing convos are definitely a main staple of it, especially when you're fishing with other people. And they range, like, so much. Like, when you say, like, the best conversations, do you mean, like, just maybe, like, deepest conversations, or, like, goofiest?
Like whatever you want to share. You know?
I guess for Aaron and I, that's how, I mean, because we already knew each other, obviously, through football and, like, going to Bible study. But that's how I really connected with him. I mean, like, I really got to know who he was through fishing, and just all the stories we've told out there, and, like, things that you maybe didn't expect to learn about that person. You'll learn out there, because, I mean, you have a lot of time together. It's just you and him sitting together, or him and her.
Yeah, what are you going to do, stare at each other and be like, oh, I caught a fish?
Yeah, exactly. So you definitely get very deep, and, like, you get to know people a lot quicker than you maybe even expect to. Like, I've had people who I've only fished with for a month or two, or even only known for a month or two, that after fishing with them a few times, like, man, I feel like I've known you forever. Like, even Aaron, I've only known Aaron like 8 months at this point. I feel like I've known him my whole life.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so it's just
happy for you on that.
No, yeah, he's an awesome guy. I love fishing with him, and he definitely helped me get a lot closer to God again too, through a lot of the conversations we've had out there. So, I mean, you'll have the really deep ones. I mean, like, really deep stuff sometimes. Like, it's like crazy. Like, you completely forget what you're doing for a minute, like talking in those conversations. Sometimes it's just like general, just things about life, things about girls, I mean, school. And then sometimes you just say the dumbest, most retarded crap, like, honestly. And I was kind of telling you earlier about that. It's like, I mean, how often I have to, we'll be fishing and we'll just say something just so out of pocket or just dumb, or people wouldn't understand, to where I have to, like, edit the audio out and then put something else back over
or it's an inside joke to where it's like you had to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I suck at that. Like, I'll find so many things funny, and then I'll, like, try to explain to someone else, and they're just looking at me
like what?
I'm like, oh, you just had to be there, like.
Oh, we have so many things like that too.
Yeah.
Especially like lake to lake, like different little things like that too. We always talk about, and that's with Aaron. That's with a lot of my friends back home from high school.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, fishing is how I made a lot of my friends in high school too. Like, I guess outside of sports. I mean, the thing is, I mean, I know a lot of people would be like, oh, I do this and I do that. It's like, for me, I feel like, I mean, I do a lot, I guess. I do sports, I do Bible study, I have all this community stuff I'll try to do. But, I mean, like, fishing, as far as hobbies are concerned, I mean, that's That's my hobby. That's what I'm like. If I'm not going to see a movie most nights, I'm not going to hang out at some person's house, I'm not going to do all this stuff. Like if I'm got free time, I'm going fishing. So a lot of my friends that I made outside of sports in high school, I made because they love fishing as well. And some of them too, even like my best friend, his name is Pierce from high school. Pierce, you're ever watching this? Shout out to you. That's my OG fishing buddy right there.
What's up, Pierce? Pierce, you're getting cheated on over here with Aaron. How do you feel about it?
He knows Aaron, don't worry.
Oh, they know each other?
They're
Okay,
cool
good,
with each
good,
other,
good.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, they're cool. But he didn't even know much about fishing at the time. He and I just kind of like connected through a class, I guess like in 6th grade maybe was when it was. And he was like, hey, I would love to go fishing with you, learn more about it. And he pretty much didn't know hardly anything. He was just curious about it. And that ended up developing into like one of the strongest, closest friendships I've had to this day. And now he's super good at fishing. Like he knows a lot about it, knows everything about it. Like he's awesome, you know, so.
Too many people I know put so much pressure. And like I've been a victim of this to my own self, like in the past. Not so much recently, but like past. It's like you can put so much pressure on like, how do I like get those genuine relationships? Number one, in my experience, has been like the whole Jesus thing. Like just going through like to the church groups or whatever. Like some people suck. Like church hurt's real, 100%. I've experienced it. I've probably been, you know, someone's church hurt in some way, but like it's to me the things that are real, like the moments of either like doing a Bible study or going fishing where it's boring, or going hunting or going on a hike, like Whataburger runs at 11 p.m. when you have a quiz tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like
that's even like after fishing, going to Whataburger at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, like whatever it is that you're doing, the moments to where like both people like put their guards down and you can just like be human. Yeah.
Like you see a very different side of people a lot of times. Normally it's a side like you don't get to see very often, but it's a side like you want to see. It's like such a just close interaction, I guess, with each other.
And at the end of the day, like if we would just live like that, it'd be so much easier. You know what I mean? Like it's so stupid.
Wish life could just be all fishing combos.
I know, right? We're the issue. But let's just all fish. Forget school. Forget let's
just everyone fish.
Charlie leads us on a fishing.
Honestly, I don't know if I'd like that because it means all my spots get taken and it'd be hard to catch fish. So
true.
I don't know. They gotta leave them all for me.
Yeah, true. But dude, Charlie, this has been awesome. I don't have another word for this, but I've absolutely loved you coming on, and I feel like
appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
No, anytime, man. If people don't know already, if they for some reason skipped all the way to the end, Charlie's a dude with a fishing channel that he's been doing on for years, FishingATX. He does a lot of cool videos. They're roughly about 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, usually. I mean, there's some that are shorter, but honestly, it's kind of funny. I think I was telling you when we ate the first time, it's like, you would think that the shorter videos would be the ones that do better because like people's attention spans are that long. That's just not the case. I mean, when I can do essentially a mini like docu-series in one video that's 20 or 30 minutes, those always tend to get the better views because like people want to see a whole like complete day if they're actually going to sit down and watch it. So I would say generally 20, 30 minutes is normally what the videos range in. Yeah,
that's great. So check him out. Follow him on Instagram. Do you have any like words of wisdom or inspiration for the people? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, no, seriously. I guess just find something that you love that gives you peace. Because like for me, I talked about it with you as well. It's like for fishing, I know, and obviously I've God too. Like having God is a great staple, but also for me, it's like fishing. I know if my whole life goes to hell and just everything is go to crap, like just everything in my life's destroyed and ruined, I know that like fishing will always be there. Yeah. I always got something to rely on to make me happy. And I guess it's great if people, it doesn't have to be fishing, it can be anything in life. It's like if you can find something like that in your life, it'll make you a lot happier, at least in my experience. So.
All right. Well, on that note, we love y'all. Cast your net, spread the gospel, do whatever you want. Till next time.